Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. How are you guys all doing to begin with? Look, I didn't watch much of the West Ham game yesterday. I watched El Clasico. I did other things. I'm glad about that. But it is depressing. It is incredibly depressing watching Manchester United, seeing how bad we are, the fact that Euro might be injured, the fact that Højlund can't score tappins. It's not good. It's not good. The football is not good, and there's a few question marks around Amorim. People are turning on him. Reports saying his job isn't safe. There's a lot of this, and my mindset is this: I think the football is crap in the Premier League because the players cannot be bothered anymore. They're so fed up with the Premier League season. They want it to end. There's nothing to play for. I think that's why it's particularly bad. We should be beating West Ham, and there should not be an excuse for that. But I think that is a big part of it. And I also think that Amorim's only signing has been Dorgu. He's come into a squad that was 14th under Ten Hag, and they were Ten Hag's players in Ten Hag's formation. He's changed formation, this and that. He's lost Rashford. He lost Ahmad for big points of the season, who were two big goal scorers. He's lost Xerxes. For me, give Amorim a summer and see how we are this time next season. If we are literally this bad this time next season, and Amorim's had 5 signings in, then conversations could be had about Amorim's future. But there is a few rumours and suggestions that Amorim's job is not safe, and there's a lot of people turning on him. Personally, am I most convinced by Amorim? No. Do I think Amorim can succeed? Yes. Do I think it's too early to judge Amorim? Yes. I know we're 17th in the league. I know the way we're playing is absolutely unacceptable, but give Amorim a transfer window. Bring in some players that can actually play, because I just feel like this squad is so shite. It does not matter who the manager is. We're going to be anywhere between 17th and 14th, no matter who the manager is. So let's give him a summer. Ineos need to sort out this summer. But we will talk about that. We will talk about reports that Amorim's job's in danger. But I want to talk about some of Amorim's comments about Man United losing the feeling of being a big club. How, he's saying a lot of players won't be here next season. I want to dive into Amorim's comments after the West Ham game, because I think this is the first time in a while Amorim's had a press conference after a match where he's really just said, fuck these players. Do you know what I mean? He's really kind of just said that. He's saying basically, this is worrying, this is bad, they won't be here. And I want to dive into that. I want to dive into all of the news, all of the stories going about. So if you do enjoy today's video, please do go ahead and hit that like button. And feel free to subscribe down below if you're new. Let me know your thoughts down below. In Amorim, we trust Amorim would leave before it got this bad again. I mean, let me know your thoughts on Amorim down below. There's a lot of people turning on him. I think if he doesn't win the Europa League, there's going to be a lot of turning on him in the summer. There definitely will be. But look, the season was pretty much written off before Amorim came in. What happens when we sack Amorim and he goes to a club like City and he starts winning Prems like it's nothing? That's the worry. Man United is a graveyard for managers. Once if he leaves Man United, goes to Manchester City, wins trophies, has success. Yeah. Sean says it's all on the players, Alice. They have a low IQ in football. Look what Amorim done at Sporting. Totally turned around the club in crisis. He needs to get rid of the whole squad. Players are letting us down. Do you know what? From what Amorim did at Sporting when they were in a crisis, that's what I think. It is just you need to get him his players. These players are not good enough. They weren't good enough for Ten Hag, and they were brought in to play Ten Hag's system. They're certainly not going to be good enough for Amorim, who particularly requires intensity more than Erik Ten Hag. He deserves he demands a certain level of energy and intensity on the pitch as well. Jin says Amorim in, every single player out, board members out. So we've got a few things to talk about in today's live show. We're going to talk about Amorim, his future, some quotes, but also there is a bit of tension between Ratcliffe and the Glazers. There is a little bit of beef ongoing there. So I am going to talk about a few stories about tension and things apparently not being good between Ratcliffe and the Glazers. But let's dive into this first story here, which come from transfer.com, which I don't personally believe because I don't think they're a good source of information, but a couple of people have been talking about it. So we'll dive into this first story. Ruben Amorim is in extreme danger. Ruben Amorim is in extreme danger of getting sacked by Manchester United, regardless of the fact he could potentially win the Europa League. So this is what transfer.com is saying. Do I think they're a good source of information? No. Do I believe a word they say? No. To other people? Yes. But I don't think Ruben Amorim's going anywhere in the summer. I don't think Ruben Amorim's going anywhere in the summer, despite his job being in extreme danger of getting sacked by United, even if he wins the Europa League. I don't think so. Now, a lot of people are saying, look, we were bad in the league, but we kept Ten Hag because we won a trophy. Why should we keep Amorim if we're bad in the league, even if he wins a trophy? Because Amorim hasn't had anybody in. Ten Hag had 600 plus million spent on him. Amorim has not had anybody in. Am I most convinced by Amorim? No. Do I have a few questions over some of his decisions? Yes. But do I think Amorim needs time to be able to succeed? Yes. I think it would be silly to get rid of Amorim this early on. We're supposed to be buying for the club, not the manager. What has Amorim shown? He's not shown loads yet, but I do think defensively we're better. I just think going forward we're absolutely atrocious, and I do think a lot of it is on the individuals. Us not scoring chances we should be scoring, the lack of individual quality in attack. Like Højlund and Garnacho both could have scored yesterday, and we could have got an extra point. How many games have we played where actually, if we had someone who was good at finishing, we'd have won that game? You know, that's the thing, that, you know, we can get him 3 attacking additions. Let's see. Betty wishes he stayed at Sporting. I'm going to say this in defence of Amorim. Man United sacked Erik ten Hag in November, was it? Or was it October? Somewhere around there. I think it was November. And when they sacked Erik ten Hag, they kept going on at that time that they had no money. There was no money to spend. There was nothing to do in January. Yeah, Manchester United went to Ruben Amorim mid-season and demanded he takes the job now because the job won't be available for him in the summer. So Amorim had to take the job. Why mid-season are you going to Ruben Amorim, who plays a completely different style of football to Ten Hag, who you know you can't back in January and will need players in January, and insisting he comes then and now? Could you have had an interim to the end of the season, got Ruben Amorim in the summer? Maybe, because maybe we'd have had a better season this year of an interim, maybe. But then I guess Ruben Amorim coming in, learning the squad, getting relationships with players means that when we go into this summer, we know a bit more about what we want because we've had him in the pre-season. But I will say this in defence of Ruben Amorim. Ineos sat Ten Hag, they said they had no money, and they demanded the manager come in and fix United that played a very different way of football to Ten Hag and has to deal with the same crap squad that Ten Hag couldn't get the best out of. You know, there is question marks around that from Ineos and the way they acted, 100%. Amorim has got a free pass despite his horrific record. He is coaching the side. Look, it is bad. Amorim has won 6 games, he's drawn 6 games, and he's lost about 13 games at Manchester United. It's an absolutely atrocious record, and there's no denying that. But I just think, you know, I'm not happy with the way we're playing. I'm not happy with the recent form in the league, but I do just think, let's just see how we are next season. I think it's too early to turn on Amorim because I think the players are not giving an F. I think the players don't give an F in those Premier League games because they're just focused on Europa League. Because the performances we get from Man United in Europa League are a lot better than the performances we get from Manchester United in the Premier League. You know, I feel like the players are only up for the Europa League now. They're playing to save themselves from the Europa League. They don't want to get injured. They don't care about the Premier League. And elements of that is on Amorim. Elements of that is on the players. Elements of the way we've been playing football since Amorim's come in is poor. But we were 14th when Ten Hag got sacked. We're 16th now. Yes, we are lower down, but we've had no Ahmad, no Rashford went, Anthony went, no attacking options, different system, different formation. I want to see what Ruben Amorim does next year with 5 signings in the door. And if this time next year we are playing like this and we are crap, those conversations can be had. But until he's had those signings in the door, I'm not going to judge him because right now, Garnacho and Højlund are only fit attackers. Garnacho and Højlund. Now, Ahmad's just come back in. But for the last 3 months, we've been relying on Garnacho, Højlund, and we had Turks who got back into form, then got injured. Hansi Flick, who's doing an incredible job at Barcelona. But if he had Højlund up top for Barcelona and Garnacho on the left, and he was trying to find somebody to play on the right until Ahmad came back from fitness, Barcelona aren't scoring the amount of goals they score. They aren't putting 16 goals past Real Madrid in 4 games. They're not. So, yeah, there's like I get Amorim to an extent. Is he getting a free pass? Are we lowering our standards too much? Like, what he's done is not acceptable. This West Ham game was not acceptable. And I think the context of us being in Europa League finals is sort of took the pressure off him. I think had we been knocked out of the Europa League, we'd be looking at this game and saying, what the hell? But I think it is very much like everyone's aware of the fact he's not really had anybody in the door. I think that's what everyone's aware of. It's on owners' management to make sure this summer has plenty of ins and outs. Completely agree with Rob here. 72 million for Højlund, it's worrying when you look at it like that. It's worrying. 72 million Højlund, the 80 plus million we spent on Anthony in the past. It's worrying how much money we've spent on absolute crap, isn't it? So worrying. Now, I want to get into some of Ruben Amorim's comments, some worrying comments he's made, some hints about players' futures and stuff. I'm just looking at the live chats as well. Glenn says, I always said Amorim realised he made a mistake joining United. He'll want to be out of here. I'm not sure. I feel sorry for every manager that joins United because of the Glazers and everything and it being a graveyard for managers. But I think Ruben Amorim isn't a quitter. He's a fighter. And I think he believes with the right summer he can make it work. We've got Ahmad, we've got Yoro, we've got Bruno. Make sure we build around them in the summer, 100%. Anyway, let's get into the news. So obviously that was news, but I don't think it's news because I think it's come out from an unreliable source about Amorim's job being in extreme danger. But let's dive into Amorim's comments. Now, this is a lot of fans worried. We are losing the feeling of being a big club. That is a worrying thing for Ruben Amorim to say. Man United are losing the feeling of being a big club. We are 16th in the league. If we don't win Europa League, we're not in Champions League football. Yes, that's awful. You cannot be a big club if you are finishing 16th place in the league, and you can't be in that sense. We are a big club. We would always be a big club, but we are losing that big club feeling because we've had last season we wouldn't have been in Europe. Last season we wouldn't have been in Europe if we didn't win the FA Cup. And next season, we won't be in Europe unless we win the Europa League. We're winning the cups to get us in Europe. This would have been if we don't win the Europa League and if we didn't win the FA Cup, this would have been 2 seasons without European football, which for a club the size of Man United, it makes you lose the feeling of being a big club if you're not in Europe. And that was a worrying thing that Amorim said. And Amorim needs to make sure that we don't lose this feeling as manager. We need to make sure in the summer we act like a big club. We need to make sure in the league next season we behave like a big club. We play like a big club. We need to get this summer spot on. Ineos, I'm looking at you. The Glazers are the biggest problem at this club. But you need to make sure that you can spend money. You can get Amorim some bloody good players. So we, next season, can have a season where okay, we see something. There's something to build here. Where we're not relying on us winning a trophy to get into Europe. I want to make sure we're in that top 6 next season. I'd love us to be top 4. That's a push. Standards have lowered because we're 16th. But I want to see Manchester United back in that top 6 next season, not having to rely on winning a cup to be playing European football. That's what I want to see. So let's talk about Amorim and what he's dropped on United's future. Amorim said this: I'm in charge. We have to change a lot of things, is what he said about Manchester United. He said, there won't be a new season like this. If we start like this, we're going to have to make room for other people. Ruben Amorim is essentially saying a lot of players, if they continue playing like this, they're not going to be here next season. I need new players in, and the players that are playing like this will not be here because they will be making way for the new players to come in, is what Ruben Amorim is saying. Ruben Amorim is basically saying many people won't be at United next season. He's saying there will not be a season like this next year. We have to change a lot of things. He's saying a lot of people will not be at Manchester United next season. Let's talk about them. Anthony, Sancho, Rashford and Malacia are all out on loan with the expectation they will be sold this summer. Lindelof and Eriksen will go on a free. I think Manchester United will look to move on Højlund and Shaw, but it will be difficult to move them on. Anana depends on offers from Saudi, and players at risk include Garnacho, Casemiro and Meno, where Manchester United aren't actively looking to sell those players, but won't turn down an offer if it's within a set price. Casemiro has been very good lately. 3 months ago, he would have been up there with Anthony, Sancho, Rashford and Malacia, so definitely sell. Right now, he's a player at risk. I think what United do like, despite his wages, is his leadership. I think Manchester United have really grown to like his leadership in and around the camp and how he steps up. And that's what I think. So this is the situation with Manchester United. They want to move on Højlund and Shaw. They want to move on Anana. Who knows? Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, Malacia are expected to go. Lindelof, Eriksen expected to go. But maybe more players can go. Who would you sell? Because right now there's 3 players that are untouchable. Yoro, Bruno Fernandes and Ahmad. They're the only 3 players I would 100% not sell. There's players I wouldn't sell, but there's a price tag on those players. They're the 3 players that I 100% would not sell. And Ruben Amorim's hinted players aren't going to be here next season. There could be quite a few Manchester United players They will not be here next season. That will not be in the plans. Onana, I think, exit massively depends on Saudi. I think no Premier League or Serie A or La Liga club's going to pay up what we need for Onana. We need £26 million to clear his book value and give him the wages he wants. But I think Saudi could be. They have interest there. He's been seeing the offers Bruno Fernandes got from Saudi, and Onana's like, damn. Amorim got 26 players out at Sporting. Honestly, maybe United could use that. We need a huge clear out. Like, I'm going to be honest. Give me a second. Let's go through the Manchester United squad. Let's go through it. And I want you guys to let me know your thoughts down below. There's always a bloody advert when you go to the Man United squad. I want you guys to join in on the chat. We're going to look at these players. Okay? Stupid advert. This is the Manchester United squad, right? Okay. Bayindir is going to go. Heaton will go in the next year or two. His position's irrelevant. And Onana will go. So we need 3 new goalkeepers. In the next 2 seasons, we're going to need to sign 3 new goalkeepers already. Lindelof is going. Mazraoui I like, but he's not even the perfect fit for the system. De Ligt I like. Maguire, he's going to go next year when his contract runs out. We'll get 1 more year out of him. Lissandro Martinez, if he wasn't injury prone, keep, but he's so injury prone, so we might be looking at this move. Already, we're looking at 3 goalkeepers we're looking at moving on. Lindelof, Martinez, and Maguire in the next 2 years could be moved on. So that's another 3. Malacia makes it 4. Dorgu, give him time. Yoro looks great. Delo, could he be here in 2 seasons' time? He's not the best fit for the system. So that's potentially 6, 7 players out potentially in the next 2 years. Shaw would make it 8. Evans is going to go anyway, which makes it 9. These guys are young. We go to the midfield. So we already got, through the defence and goalkeeper, we looked at 9 players that are probably going to leave Man United in the next 2 seasons. We go into the midfield. Mason Mount depends really on fitness. This is, I'm considering the fact I don't think he's going to stay fit, I'm going to put Mason Mount number 10. Bruno will stay, hopefully. But if we don't get European football next season, what's to stop him accepting 100 million a year from Saudi? He's not going to be like, no, I've got to stay at Man United because I want to play in the Champions League. Well, we're not in the Champions League, we're not in Europa. So Mount, 9. Eriksen, 10, he's going to go. Casemiro might not go this summer, but he'll probably go the following summer, 11. Agate, there's big question marks around him. Could he be moved on in the next few years? 12. Maino isn't safe. Collier, who knows? Højlund, 13. Rashford, 14. Xerxes looks safe. Ahmad looks safe. Garnacho could be 15. There's a lot of question marks around him. Anthony, 16. Sancho, 17. We're looking at this Manchester United squad and we're looking at potentially 17 names that we think, and that doesn't even include the young players that would go anyway, but that's 17 names that we think could go in the next 2 seasons as part of this clear out. Like, that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. There's so much we need to get out of this squad. That's the crazy part about it. 2 seasons clear out now. We can't clear out 17 players in 1 season, being realistic. We can't. It will be across 2 seasons. I know people would like 17 out and 15 in, but you can't do that in 1 window. Steve makes a good point here. Really wish Collier hadn't got injured, calm and disciplined. I'd love to have seen more Collier. Because he's been really good when he's played. Number 7 says, keep Euro, sell the rest. You wouldn't sell Ahmad. Surely not. Ahmad and Bruno. Ahmad, Euro, and Bruno are the 3 that it's like, keep. The other ones, who knows? Martinez and De Ligt injury prone. De Ligt has been injury prone, but not actually until recently for us. Only Ahmad and Euro I really want to keep. Everyone else is available depending on offers. And that's the math thing. We're looking at Manchester United side and we're naming 2 to 3 players that we'd keep. 2 to 3 players that we'd keep in the whole Man United side. That's mad. That is absolutely mad. It is a shambles of the squad. I would keep Bruno. A lot of people are saying they'd sell every player apart from Euro and Ahmad. But yeah. Bayindir will go. Onana's in talks with Saudi. We could get updates on the goalkeeper situation as well. But it's not good enough. Steve said Ahmad, the one player yesterday, looking like he really cared. Yeah, from what I saw, Ahmad and Bruno were the only people doing anything. He's come back from injury, he's hungry. Ahmad cared. It feels like nobody cares about this club. When Manchester United, these players have got the opportunity to play for the biggest club in England. I know we don't act like the biggest club in England. I know we don't look anything like the biggest club in England, but we technically are. And the players they don't give a crap on the pitch. You're playing in Old Trafford in a Premier League game, achieving millions of people's dreams. And you just are like, you know what? I can't be bothered. Can you believe that? That kind of attitude from said Man United players. Oh, you know what? Can't be bothered. It makes me angry. it makes me angry that just the lack of effort. I barely watched yesterday's game, but it was just like you knew the players couldn't be bothered. And look, I guess the game there's nothing to play for. It's not the most important game, but when you put on the Manchester United shirt, people are paying all that money to watch you play inside Old Trafford. You go and give the performance of your life. Do not take that for granted. Do not take that for granted one bit. Hoyland and Garnacho should stay, but as understudies, issues we have too many 20-year-olds as main players. We need to add 25-year-olds. I think the way it would work is having them as understudies, but I think Hoyland should just go on loan or go. I think Hoyland needs a change of environment. I think Hoyland needs a change of environment. Agate am selling unless he patterns up. He can't play under pressure and is a poor passer, which is embarrassing for a midfielder. He's very good off the ball, but on the ball he's got limitations. He's good in the final third, but with his back to goal and our third on the ball, there's limitations there. We need to use Agate right. We need to profile him right. Anyway, let's dive into some more comments that was made by Ruben Amorim, because there's quite a few bits to talk about. Amorim said this. Bear with me. Amorim said this. I feel embarrassed to be in this position, and it's difficult to accept. Everyone has to think seriously about many things. Everyone is thinking about the final, but there are more important things to think about. We have to change many things at the end of the season, is what Amorim said. He said, I feel embarrassed to be in this position, Man United 16th. I think it's difficult to accept. Everyone he's talking and when he says everyone, he's talking about the players, he's talking about the board, he's calling out Ineos. He says everyone has to think seriously about many things. Everyone is thinking about the final, but there are more important things to think about. We have to change things at the end of the season. And what Ruben Amorim is saying here is basically, even if we win the Europa League final, that doesn't change the fact that we were atrocious in the Premier League games. When we won the FA Cup, we almost used that to cover the cracks of how bad we were in the Premier League last season. And that cost us because we went into next season being shite in the Premier League. Amorim is saying we can win the Europa League, but the season is still embarrassing because look what we've done in the Premier League. We can't completely ignore the Premier League form because we're going to go and win the Europa League. One, we might not win the Europa League, but two, even if we do win the Europa League, the Premier League form is worrying. It is atrocious. It is not good enough. And that's the truth of the matter. Don't we need players capable of playing out from the back? Where are the progressive passes and carries, technical ability, particularly in midfield? I think we lack that. To be honest, I agree. We need a progressive passer. We need good players in build-up. We could have done with a Gravenberch. The season he's had at Liverpool, wow, but he would have been perfect. How many of your players have contracts that are running out? Those should not be difficult to replace. Who knows? United's player attitude sucks. They have one good result and they think they have credit in the bank for the next couple of games. It is worrying. Hoyland just got here. What change of environment he needs, practice and help with workload. I just think Hoyland is struggling at Manchester United. I think he showed a lot in his third season, but I think he's struggling. And I think if he went out on loan to a club outside the Premier League where he got service, he got goals in him, he could come back a different guy. But I think he's so lost at Manchester United. De Jong would have been good for ball progression, 100%. What else did Amorim say? He said this. For me, it doesn't matter if we win the Europa League because the problems are much bigger than that. Amorim said, I'm not worried about the final. It's the smallest problem at our club. We need to change something deeper than that. We're showing at the end of the season that playing in the Premier League and the Champions League is the moon for us. I don't know what's better, playing in the Champions League or not, which is weird comment. I feel like Ruben Amorim is almost trying to say, if we're not in Europe next season, we can focus on our league form and maybe we'll be in a better position for that league-wise by only having the league to focus on. Maybe that's what he's saying. But we need Champions League football. The reason we need Champions League football is because it gives us £85 million more to spend in the summer. That is why we need Champions League football. We need to win the Europa League. I know that it can paper over cracks. And I know that if we're not in Europe next season, we can focus on the Premier League and we'll have a much better Premier League season. But the Europa League is so key to win because I think if we don't win the Europa League, it sets us back another 2 years. When you look at the budget, when you look at the lack of pool, 2 years outside the Europa League, the amount of money we'll lose. We'll lose percentages of our sponsorship deal with Adidas. If we're not in Europe next season, we're going to have £100 million less to spend. And that is 2 good signings when Amorim needs about 6 good signings this summer. Shorter. Oh, interesting. Breaking. Liam Delap is leaning towards joining Manchester United. United's chances of signing him will be boosted if they win the UEL. So maybe there's something there. It's a bit of a nothing story, that, but that's an interesting one. We know Cunha wants us, but the big question is, does Liam Delap want us? Does Liam Delap want us? There's a few reports coming out now. It's come from a Chelsea source. It's come from a Chelsea source saying Liam Delap is leaning towards joining Manchester United over Chelsea. So that's come from a Chelsea source as well, as Alex Crook. So that's one to keep an eye on, potentially. I mean, I'm not that bothered, but apparently he's starting to favour a move to United over Chelsea, is what's being reported, interestingly, there. So that we'll talk about that later. But Ben Jacobs has also said this. Manchester United are optimistic about signing Liam Delap if they win the Europa League. The striker will consider his options at the end of the season, but United have already presented the project to him. 5 weeks ago, Delap chose United over Chelsea. He's just waiting to the end of the season just in case. There's a lot of reports that have just come out now that Delap has essentially chosen Man United over Chelsea. So we'll have to wait and see with that. That's interesting. I mean, because we always knew we were going to get Cunha. But that's a big boost for United who want Delap. I mean, for me, I'd rather get a Gyökeres. If we win the Europa League, I would go and spend the money on a Gyökeres. But yeah, let's continue on into some more news and stories. But that was an interesting update in regards to Liam Delap. Alice, is Amorim fed up with owners? I think everybody's fed up with the owners, to be honest, as well. Manchester United are optimistic about signing Liam Delap. If they win the Europa League, the striker will consider his options at the end of the season. So there's big updates coming in now that Manchester United have won the race for Liam Delap. Delap knows the fans will immediately take to him as they're fed up with Højlund, but Chelsea fans are fed up with Jackson, to be fair. He got a stupid red card yesterday, didn't he? The Chelsea fans are fed up. I agree with this comment, by the way. Why not Jonathan David? He can play multiple forward positions and is 3. I guess his agent fees and wages means he's not actually 3, but 100%. I think Jonathan David's a better player than Delap, and I would pick him over Delap. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyway, Amorim is obviously under a bit of pressure now. We were talking about the reports that Amorim could be sat, this and that. But yeah, there's a bit of talk about Amorim. But Amorim is taking the blame. He said, look, it's not the player's fault, it's my fault. I'm responsible. If we cannot change that really fast, we should give our place to different persons. What I'm reading is Amorim is taking blame for the players being shite. And Amorim could do better. Amorim could do this better. Amorim could do that better. But at the end of the day, the players are shite. Amorim needs to get the best out of the players. He's not got the best out of the players, but they are also shite. And I will judge Amorim more properly next season. Glazers said this. Integrating 6 new players into the team is not good. The only team that can do this is Barcelona with their youth academy, plays the same form as their La Liga team. I mean, look, we need 6 signings. We need a goalkeeper, Joan Garcia. We need a centre-back that's going to be a good wide channel centre-back for depth. So, I don't know, Diakite, for example. We need a midfielder that can progress the ball. Wharton or Stiller. That's 3. We need arguably a striker, Jonathan David or Delap, 4. We need Cunha, 5. And we need another attacking option in Mbeumo, 6, that can push Ama to right wing back. I think we need 6 additions in the summer. We need 6 additions in the summer. It's not easy to mould 6 new players into a squad. It might take time. But I do think we need 6 additions in the summer. 5 additions I'll be happy with, 5 good additions, but 6 I think is what we need. 6 new players. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the news about tension going on behind the scenes between Ratcliffe and the Glazers in just a second. But MUFC Realist said this. Problem with Delap again, learning on the job. If it's okay to get another experienced striker to mentor. That's the problem with Delap. He's young. This is why I think if we win the Europa, we go for Gyökeres. We need experience. We need ready now. But I think he wants Arsenal, sadly. So The Athletic said this. Joel Glazer described as daily obsessed with United. Well, if he's so obsessed with Manchester United, why has he been running the club so badly? So I don't believe that. PR piece. Ratcliffe's claim that the club was at risk of going bust by Christmas did not sit well with the Glazers. And internal uncertainty remains. One source questions if this could be the start of the post-Glazer era or post-Ratcliffe era could follow. Basically, The Athletic have sort of gone with and suggested that, things behind the scenes between the Glazers and Ineos are not good. There's tension there. Ratcliffe's made comments always trying to make out that he's the saviour and the club was a mess and he was going to save United from this total mess. And the Glazers aren't happy with that. And obviously the state that Manchester United are in, the lack of money it's making, a lot of people aren't happy with that. And the relationship between Ratcliffe and the Glazers has been reported as pretty poor. Pretty poor. That's been heavily reported. So by a few, it's not been heavily reported, but the relationship between Ratcliffe and the Glazers has been reported as poor in the past. Sorry, I was just reading something else, I lost concentration. And the Athletic are suggesting, some of Ratcliffe's comments aren't going down well. Could this be the start of the end of them working together? Whether Ratcliffe pulls out, whether the Glazers pull out, and Ratcliffe gets full control. There's definitely some things going on behind the scenes. Ratcliffe and the Glazers or Amorim? Well, I pick Amorim over the Ratcliffe and the Glazers any day. I put blame on the idiots that are higher than Amorim, I agree. You can't blame Amorim for this club being a shit show when Amorim's been here 6 months and this club's been a shit show for a while. Do you know what I mean? You can't. It is the people above Amorim as well. Sorry, I lost concentration when I was reading that. But I was just reading something else there. But it is worrying. Internal uncertainty remains, said the Athletic. One source questions if it's the start of the post-Glazer era or a post-Ratcliffe era could follow. So there are questions around, could the Glazers and Ineos part ways? They're not happy with each other. There's a bit of tension there. It's definitely something to keep an eye on as well. Delap won't solve our lack of goals. Delap, Cunha and Mbeumo would, but Delap on his own wouldn't. I agree. Look, can we all stop criticising our players till we finish the finals, win it, then reorganise group, reassess? All said at no cost whatsoever. We should rehire Sancho, Rashford. I think I get what you're trying to say, but look, for me, the focus is Europa League final, but the form in the Premier League has been atrocious. And when we don't win the Europa League final, everyone will think about how we've played in the Premier League and how bad it's been. And we can't let the players have a free ride because we didn't get relegated. This is Manchester United. The standards have got lower. Some players are over-criticised. I remember people writing Euro off after 5 games. People are going at Dorgu. I think Dorgu's been well over-criticised. But we could sit here and say, look, I'm concerned about Højlund. He's not been good enough. I'm concerned about this player. I'm concerned about that player. We have the right to be worried. We're 16th. And winning the Europa League doesn't change that. It doesn't. Obviously, the main focus is win the Europa League, and in the summer, we need to get the players out that need to get out, and we can get the players in that need to come in. Of course, that is the focus. But Sancho and Rashford, I would bring Rashford back, but not Sancho. But I wouldn't bring Rashford back because his relationship with Amorim looks gone, and it probably isn't a good idea. And the Athletic did suggest, yes, that maybe another phase is coming at United, which was weird. The Athletic suggested maybe another phase is coming at United. They said a few random weird stuff, didn't they? But there's a feeling that, the relationship between us and the Glazers is going down. There's another phase to come at Manchester United. There's rumours of Amorim being sacked. There's a lot of unhappiness going in and around Manchester United at the moment. It's a mess. And we just got to sit here and hope that we win the Europa League and that we can sort this mess out. We can win the Europa League and sort this mess out. And in terms of winning the Europa League, we need Euro to be fit. The only good thing is he wasn't in the protected boot. And Amorim said that Euro had this problem at the beginning of the season. We hope it's not serious. Euro tears makes me think it is serious. We just got to really hope that Euro is going to be available for that Europa League final. We've really got to hope that. But look, would I say Amorim? No. United's expected finish was 14th last season with our underlying numbers and the way we played football. We're 16th in the league this season. It's the squad. Amorim could be doing better. Amorim has got things wrong. Amorim could be getting better out of the players. But the biggest problem is sorting the squad out in the summer. We need to sort it out in the summer. That's the biggest problem. Alice, it's Amorim's fault if he didn't replace the loaned players with youngsters. I mean, Amorim loaned players out because the Glazers said they'd get a replacement and they didn't. That's not Amorim's fault. You learn out Sancho, Rashford and Anthony without replacing who is to blame. Of course, Ineos, the board. Idiots, 100%. I don't think Amorim would have let those players out without a replacement. Loaning all those players out, and Amorim never loaned out Sancho. It is worrying. It's worrying how badly we're run. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up today's show here. Go and raid Kaz's channel, by the way, guys, and I will catch you in a bit.